Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Okay, good morning. I hope you can hear me. One of you, please respond.
Yes, teacher. I can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, let me share my screen now. Okay, can you see the screen now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, this is a HLMS screen. Okay, later on, this is first part of your revision. Okay, the second part, later on, you have to log in. There's another link for afternoon session. This is where you join the class. Okay, for tomorrow, there's another link. So there are three parts here. Okay, this one is hidden now because I don't want the student to join the wrong class. Okay. Okay. One more thing is the final project. Okay, the end of the page here, you can see the final project. This question you can't see now. 21st of May, which is 3 days from now, at 2 p.m. your time, you click here, you can download the question paper. Okay. So once you have downloaded the question paper, you can start working on it. Every student must do project declaration. Okay, do the project declaration. Okay, so you know that you can use AI as a tool, but not to use AI to generate your answer. Okay, here you declare. Okay, whatever AI tool you use, you have to mention. Sorry, this is a project declaration. This is an AI declaration. Okay, then you have answer book. The answer book is your cover page. I don't want any other cover page. This is where you write your name, student ID. That's all. As your cover page. Okay. Turn it in, project turn it in, and submission. Both are same link. Turn it in. You click here, you can turn it in your answer to see the similarity index. So when do you do the turn it in, you only upload your answer. Answer meaning no cover page, no reference, only your answer to turn it in to find out your similarity index. Make sure your similarity index is below 20%. If more than 20%, you do changes and resubmit here. Okay, you can submit any number of times, but you have to do it by 11 of June, 2 p.m. Okay, when you do turn it in, use Word document or Word file so that you can do the changes. But once you have done all the changes and you're happy with the Turnitin index, your final summation must have answer book, your cover page, your answer, reference list, all in one file and must be in PDF. Convert to PDF. Okay, then you upload to this link, submission. Okay, here you submit your complete answer. So there's only one link here for doing Turnitin and submission. Are you clear? Is it clear? Any question? You have to respond, use your microphone, say something. Again, when you do Turnitin, use Word document, only Turnitin your answer. When do the summation of your project, it must be complete set. That is, must have answer book cover page. If you have got content list, provide your content list, your answer, your report, and the reference list, all in one file. Convert to PDF format. Okay, I don't want Word. It must be in PDF. So then you upload your answer here, final. Once you've done that, no more, you don't want to submit anymore. That's your final submission. Okay, late submission, not accepted. Okay, very important. Similarity index, also check, must be below 20%. Okay, that is about your project. This is where you do everything about your project here, final project. Okay, you can see. Is there any question about your project? Anyone? Please answer. So remember, project question is here. You can only get your question 21st of May. This is Malaysian time, 3 p.m. Your time is 2 p.m. Okay. Follow the project structure to provide your report. Follow exactly the structure, you provide your report. Okay. Follow all the instruction given in the project. The project guideline instruction, everything must be followed. Okay. Any question? Anyone? Any question? One of you, please answer. Any question? Okay, what do you see now on the screen? What do you see on the screen? Are you able to hear me or not? How come no answer? One of you, please answer. Please respond. Min Yang, Lê Minh Yang. Lê Minh Yang, are you on the online?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, you tell me whether what you see on the screen. Okay.
Yes.
What do you see on the screen now?
You see the screen, but it's nothing.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Huh? Okay, this is the blank screen. So, okay, final project for Eco 102. Okay, what do you need to know about this final project? Number one, duration. You're given 21 days to complete your project, starting from 21st of May, right up to June. 21 days, okay, to finish your project. 21 days is a lot of time. Therefore, you must have substantial references. Means you must read a lot reference. You cannot just use 1-2 reference to write a project report. You are 21 days, you can read a lot of report, article, journal article, economic report, whatever, to do your project. Okay, so you must use a lot of reference. Okay, then your project will be quite comprehensive. If you're using only 1 or 2 reference, it's not good. Number 3, AI tool. AI, you must only this one use as a learning tool. Okay, you must use it as a learning tool, not to use for generating answer. You cannot use it to generate your answer. If you do that, your AI index will be very high. Okay, if your AI index is very high, you will score very, very low mark, or even you may fail. So that is very important. You must bear this in mind. You must read a lot, relevant material. Use the tool you want to use, you can use it, but you do the AI declaration, say what tool you use, but do not use it for generating answer. Okay, you only can use it to find, for example, you want to know certain article, you can ask AI to provide the source of the article. Then you go to the source and read the article or the report and see what you can do for your project, whether you can use it for your project. So that's how you use your AI. Okay. Okay. Do not share your answer. Do not share your answer with your friend. Because if you share your answer, your similarity index will be very high. The answer is for you. Keep for yourself. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, then you must follow the project structure given in the project question. The structure is given. For example, you have introduction. Okay, so you write down introduction. Then maybe second part will be theoretical framework. I'll just give you an example. Then you write down theoretical framework. What are the theories and model that you are going to, that are used for this question? Okay. So the structure will be given in the question. You just follow the structure and fill up all the details according to the structure. So what is the introduction? It's very structured kind of project. Structured meaning I give you some points there, what you can write for your introduction, what you can write for your theoretical framework. So you just follow accordingly. Okay, look for the material, look for the data, very important, okay? Then you can provide your answer. If you complete every part of your structure, that means you have done your project. Difficult to fail. Definitely you can pass, okay? Except for if you use AI to generate your answer, you may fail. Okay, so these are some important things that you must bear in mind when doing your project. Okay, what else? For your project, you must, okay, very important, use real world example, data, and policy. And make sure we must also use economic model. Economic model, you can use it for analyzing the outcome of certain economic event. You can use the model to analyze the outcome of certain policy that the government use. Okay, clear. So these are very important. Remember, 21 days. Do not wait till the last day to do your work. You start on, this is starting from 21st of May. Okay, starting 21st, you download the question, start working on it. Don't wait till the last minute to do your project. If you take your time, 3 weeks is about 3 weeks for you to do it, you will be able to provide very good answer. Last minute work are the people who will cut and paste, copy, paste, all that you must avoid. Okay. So any question about your project? This part here, any question about this? Okay, please feel free to ask. You unmute your microphone, then you can talk to me. Once you have talked to me, then you have to mute the microphone again. Any question? One of you must reply, response.
Teacher, I think no question for you.
Okay, thank you. Must respond. You just, no question, you just say no question, response. Okay, let's start. Your final project is basically on monetary policy. I think you have studied this monetary policy. There are many policies that you have studied: monetary, fiscal policy, supply side policy. Okay, but this is monetary, one of the policy that is very important in the study of macroeconomics. So in this revision, I will talk about what is monetary policy, okay, what are the tools, okay, and so on. But when you do your project, you follow the structure. When you come to the specific, you have to select one country, okay, monetary policy used by a particular country to examine whether the policy works or not, effective or not. You select one country. But certain part is very general. Beginning part like introduction is general. Literature review, general. Okay, so when you come to talking about the policy of a particular country, you must choose a country. And once you choose the country, you have to find the data related to the country. All the economic data, macroeconomic data for the country. At least 5 years data, look at it to analyze the effectiveness of the monetary policy that is used by the country. Central bank. Okay, whether is there any changes, the data will show you whether the policy works or not. So the key area of your project is about monetary policy. Okay, that is your final project. So what is a monetary policy? Anyone? What is a monetary policy? This monetary policy normally used by whom? Used by the central bank of a country. Okay, every country has a central bank. The central bank is the one responsible to implement the monetary policy. That's the first thing you must know. Okay, and what is the purpose of this policy? What's the objective? This also you have to know. Objectives of monetary policy. Anyone can tell me what is the objective? Anyone, please answer. What's the objective? Please engage yourself. Just try and see. No worries, mistakes, it's okay. What's the objective of a monetary policy? Quick, don't respond. Any one of you can respond.
I think inflation.
Very good. One more.
Currency.
You got one correct, huh? So first one
Okay.
is when you talk about inflation, meaning price stability. So one objective of monetary policy is you use the term price stability. Okay, the central bank wants to make sure that the price is stable. They don't want to have price going up very high, hyperinflation. Stable price, certainty. There will be certainty. Very important, price stability. When there are certainty, easy to do business, economy will be functioning very, smoothly and so on. That's the purpose of price. Cost of living will be maintained, okay, at a certain level. So people will be able to live, okay, without much problem. That is why price stability is important. Second reason is economic stability. Economic stability is, for example, like recession. So many people become unemployed. So we want to create economic stability. We want economy to continue to grow. Okay. So this economic stability is also very important. So these are the two main objectives of monetary policy. Okay. And this monetary policy must only be used in the short run. Okay. Monetary policy only used in the short run. Why we cannot use it in the long run? Because this economic instability all happen in the short run. Economic instability is because of business cycle. Business cycle changes in the short run. Okay, so where there is high inflation because of too much of demand, or when there is very low demand, unemployment goes up. This all happen because of change in the business cycle, and it happens in the short run. So this policy, monetary, is used in the short run. And you also must know this monetary policy main aim is to make changes to the total spending, total demand, aggregate demand. You know aggregate demand, right? So the aggregate demand is the total spending. The aim of the policy is to make changes to the aggregate demand, which will change the macroeconomic variable, for example, like what? Like price, production, employment, unemployment. Okay. So very important model that you can use for this project is the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model must be used. You can also use the short I'm giving you the hint, what model you must be using in your project. So anything that is related to aggregate demand. Okay, so one model that can be used is the aggregate demand supply to show the effectiveness of the policy. And this is short run. Why long run we can't use monetary policy? Anyone? Why in the long run we are unable to use the monetary policy? Who can give the answer? Why monetary policy is not suitable for long run? Please try, one of you.
I think if the long run, it will be neutral.
No what? Neutral. What happened in the long run? Can you repeat?
I think it will effects on output capital stock in the economy.
Yeah. In the you study, have you come across the term called monetary neutrality? Have you come across this concept? Monetary neutrality. The word neutral means the money supply, monetary policy in the long run will change the money supply, and changes in money supply no effect. Monetary neutrality means it has no effect on production, real output, real variable. Economic variable, you have nominal variable and real variable. Nominal variable, for example, price. Real variable, for example, like production, real GDP. But this monetary policy only affects the nominal variable in the long run, not the real variable. Therefore, what is more important is the real variable. To us, whether the policy works or not, it must be able to change the real variable. If the policy cannot make changes to the real variable because it's neutral here, then the policy should not be used in the long run. So this is the reason why monetary policy is not used in the long run, because of monetary neutrality. Okay, that term I will explain later. You understand? It is only suitable. There is no monetary neutrality in the short run. I mean, in the short run, the real variable and the nominal variable will change. So when there's a changes to the real variable, that means the economy policy or the monetary policy is working, okay, towards achieving its goal, objective. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, first thing you need to know the definition. I already given you monetary policy. What is monetary policy definition? If you download the slides, I already given in the in HLMS the revision project slides. Have you downloaded? One of you, have you downloaded the slide? You have to do. Okay, then you can write down.
Yes.
Okay. So monetary policy is to control money supply and interest rate. Okay, the first purpose of the monetary policy is to control money supply. Okay, but eventually to make changes to the aggregate demand. So this is how the monetary policy works. When the central bank implements monetary policy, okay, there are two things will happen. Two market is affected. When central bank implements monetary policy, number one, there will be changes to the money market. So, okay, first change is the money market. What we have in the money market? In the market, you have demand and supply. In money market, you have money demand. Okay, money demand is the liquidity preference. Why people hold money. and the money supply. So this central bank policy will make changes to the money supply, will control money supply. So what happens when money supply changes? Then there will be changes to the money market outcome. Sorry, this is money market. So when there's change to the money supply, then there will be changes to money market outcome. What are the outcome of the money market? What are the outcomes? There will be changes to interest rate. Okay. Interest rate will change. And number two, there will be changes to money supply, quantity of money. So these are the outcome of the money market. So how do you want to show this outcome? You have to use the model, money market model. Okay, anyone can, the money market model must have this, money demand and money supply. Okay. So if I draw the diagram, this is the model, quantity of money. So this model you must use in your project, quantity of money. This is the interest rate. You can see these are the two outcomes. Told you a change in interest rate, changes in quantity of money. This is the money supply, which is constant, fixed. It's the money demand. You have seen this model diagram, correct? Okay, let's say this is the interest rate. I just simply put a figure. Okay, let's say this is in billions of dollars. Okay, let's say 5%. So originally the interest rate is 5%. Money supply in the economy is 20 billion. This money supply you can find from the central bank data, or your Department of Statistics can provide, or you can ask AI to find the source for this. Okay, that's how you use your AI. So when money supply changes, that means what happened? The money supply, MS, will shift. If there's increase in money supply, the money supply will shift to the right. This is increase in money supply shift to the right. So what happens? Changes to the money outcome, money market. First change, you can see interest rate fall. Okay, let's say to 4%. Second changes is increase in the quantity of money. Let's say to 30 billion. So that is the first change. Change to the money market. The monetary policy firstly will affect the money market. Okay, any question here? So this is an example of what? Expansionary monetary policy. Outcome, the outcomes of expansionary monetary policy. The outcomes of expansionary monetary policy in the money market. Okay. So when we talk about money market, very important, you must know money, quantity of money and interest rate. So the monetary policy first will affect the money market. It affects the interest rate and the quantity of money in the country. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, before we go, the importance of monetary policy. Yeah. Before we go into the how this monetary policy will be used. Okay. Let me continue that now. Then now I show you the changes to the money market. The outcomes of the money market, which is interest rate. You can put R, okay, as interest rate. Quantity of money is the money supply. Is the quantity of money, let's say M0, interest rate R0, It's the money demand. Okay. Here you can relate to another second. This one I said first changes is to the money market. Second changes is to it affects the goods and services market. In the goods and services market, the market has two things also. But in the goods and services market, we have two things. One is aggregate demand, okay, total money spent in the economy, aggregate supply, total production of goods in the economy. Money market has two, demand and supply, aggregate demand, aggregate supply. Money market, you have money demand, money supply. Okay, this will determine three things, very important. One is price, number two is production, number three is employment. The outcome of the any changes in the money market, goods and services market, we have changes to price, real GDP, production is the real GDP, employment and the unemployment. Okay, so here you can write down this is a money market. This is a diagram model for goods and services market. Okay, so goods and services market, you have price, the variable will be changes. The changes to the outcome of the goods and services market are the prices and the real GDP. Real GDP is Y. So you have aggregate demand, then you have aggregate supply. This short run aggregate supply. Okay, in the short run, how the policy works. Long run, you have to draw the long run aggregate supply. That one I will show you later. Okay, why we should not use in the long run. So we have production, Y0, bracket unemployment, U0. More production, less unemployment. If this is the production Y0, unemployment rate is U0, assume. So here we will find what? Price, P0. So we have price, production, unemployment. These are the three variables that you can analyze. Okay, what happened to these three variables if there are changes to the goods and services market. So expansionary, for example, expansionary policy, I told you the money supply will shift to the right. So first thing, change happening in the money market. So what are the changes? Interest rate drop. Okay, then we have increase in money, quantity of money, that is the changes. So what happens when interest rate drop? How it affects the goods and services market? And you said interest rate drop, meaning cost of borrowing will fall. There will be more borrowing. More borrowing means more investment. More investment meaning investment is one component of aggregate demand. Aggregate demand, you know, it is CI, aggregate demand. What is aggregate demand? C plus I plus G plus NX. More investment means investment increase. So aggregate demand will increase. So you shift the aggregate demand to the right. So this is how the policy is supposed to work. This is used when production is very low, unemployment very high. Expansionary monetary policy normally used during recession. So during recession, the central bank wants to create economic stability, implements expansionary monetary policy. Okay, as a result, it can influence the goods and services market by having higher demand. So price increase. Of course, one undesirable outcome is price go up. That one is okay, no problem. Okay. Then number 2, we have production increasing. Production increase means unemployment. U1 is lower than U0, less unemployment. Okay, more production means less unemployment. So these are the changes you can see. And you can relate this to even using, of course, there's a trade-off. No? There is more production, low unemployment, but higher price. This you can relate using short-run Phillips curve. You see how you can use your model in your analysis to look at the outcome of a monetary policy. So combining this, say I can connect this to short-run Phillips curve. Okay, short-run Phillips curve, we have unemployment rate, and you have inflation rate. Okay, unemployment rate initially U0. Okay, let's say this is U0. Inflation rate is the P0, P price, lower price. Okay. Okay, let's say this is an inflation rate. I use inflation as I0. When aggregate demand increase, unemployment fall to U1. Price went up to P1. So inflation rate increased. So you can see there's a trade-off. The trade-off between inflation and unemployment. So called short run. Another diagram you can use, short run Phillips curve. Okay, all these you have studied. So all these are different model that you can use to explain the policy outcome. Okay, some outcome are good. This is good outcome. This is something we have to trade off. Nothing, you cannot get everything that you want. Okay, you want lower unemployment, so the economy must face higher inflation. So there's a trade-off here. So that is the importance of this policy. This policy is, if there is a recession like that, the policy is to create more growth, more employment. But if there is, let's say, inflation, okay, what happens? Okay, here, any question here? Do you have any question here? Anyone?
Teacher, can I ask?
Yeah.
During we do the project, did we have to add the chart like in your presentation into our essay?
At what? Diagram.
Like the two chart you draw on your presentation. Did
No, I
we
don't.
have to try it?
No, I don't follow. What you have to add in your project?
In your screen you draw the two more money market and goods and
Okay. Money market, good services. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Did we have to draw like that in your essay to make more clear?
Yes, must. These are all you must. I must see all this diagram in your project. These are the diagram you're analyzing about the outcome of the policy. Okay. Yeah, in theory, this is in theory. When the policy is used, okay, for example, like this, expansionary, this is expansionary monetary, to create more jobs, to create more growth. Okay, I put the importance of the policy is to control inflation, that is price stability, economic stability, that is growth and employment. Okay, so in this example here is, this policy is meant to show what? Better growth and better employment. This is normally used during recession. But if it is, must use this diagram. But in this policy got trade-off. There's a trade-off. That's why you can then relate to short-run Phillips curve. You can show the short-run Phillips curve This monetary policy, you achieve something, but you have to pay a price. For example, lower unemployment, but higher inflation. So you have to show money market model. You have to show all these are connected. All these three are connected. Okay, let me clear this. Is that okay? This diagram, any question on this diagram? Anyone?
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Is there any question on this diagram? No. Okay, let me show you how these three are connected. Okay, let's say we have recession. Normally during recession, problem is what? High unemployment. Number two, what? High unemployment because of low growth, economic growth. Or negative economic growth, negative, low. So the solution is to create more growth and to reduce the unemployment. Okay, then you relate this to the policy. But this topic is on monetary only. So monetary policy, what kind of monetary policy? You say expansionary. Expansionary monetary policy. You will find if you take 5 years, you look at the 5 years time frame, for example, during 2019, 2020, economy having problem. Understand? The economy problem because of COVID. Now there is also problem, economic problem because of the war, correct? US and Iran. The war has created economic problem. Okay. So policy, suitable policy is expansionary monetary policy. That is to increase the money supply. Okay, what's the outcome of this policy? So first outcome, you must look at money market. Then you look at goods and services market. Okay, so you can draw the model to provide your analysis of the outcome of the policy. The theory says what can we expect. Then you can use that model. So money market, goods and services market. And then this one, we want to show the trade-off, Phillips curve. So this is A, money market. This diagram, when you do your project, you can draw on your own. Take a clean piece of paper, draw it nicely, and then scan and put your answer. Okay, put it in your project answer. You don't have to use computer. If you don't know how to use computer, you just hand drawn, but draw it neatly, nicely. Okay, money market, and then you have goods and services market. And then C is the Phillips curve. Okay, goods and services market, the variables are interest rate in percent, quantity of money. You must know what is the variable listed here. Goods and services, you have price and real GDP. In inflation, Phillips curve, we have inflation rate, in percent, unemployment rate. Also in percent. Okay, for simplicity reason, I'm going to use numerical values. Okay, I just simply use figures, easier for you to see. Okay, what do you have in a money market? Money demand, money supply. So this is the original initial outcome. Okay, let's say I just simply put a figure here. Okay, let's say this is 5%. This is 20 billion. So goods and services market, aggregate demand, because monetary policy only used for short run, so you use short run aggregate supply. So what do you have here? Price. I'm going to put index 102, production. Okay, let's say 50 Okay, billion production, real GDP 50 billion, unemployment, okay, let's say 6%. Okay. So what is the inflation rate? Index 102. 102 means inflation is 2%. Unemployment given 6%. So this is how you get the short run Phillips curve. Okay, so next, the central bank finds the unemployment rate is very high. Okay, production is very low, 50 billion. They want to increase it. So what they do first is increase the money supply. So what's the outcome in the money market? You can see changes happening. One is interest rate drop, 3%. When interest rate drop, there will be more people borrowing money and investing. Okay, but first talk about changes in money market. Interest rate drop, quantity of money increase from 20 to 30. Because the interest rate is low, there is more borrowing, means more investment. So aggregate demand increases. So what happens when more spending happening in the economy? There will be more people buying, means price will go up 4%. 104. 104 is 4%. Inflation rate is 4%. More production. Now production is, let's say, 80 billion. So unemployment, okay, let's say 3%. Drop to 3%. So 3% here. So you have 4%, 3%. Some go up, some down. So this is the outcome of an expansionary monetary policy. What happened in the money market, what happened in the goods and services market, and what happens in the what? What is the trade-off? So the trade-off will be lower unemployment, higher inflation. Okay, this is normally used for recession. Okay, how about during inflation, when prices are going up? Okay, for example, now because of the war, oil prices are going up. So generally we have stagflation. Stagflation meaning short-run aggregate supply will fall because of high costs. So price will go up. And the central bank will try to control the price, control inflation. So control inflation, what happens? Okay. Is there any question here? This diagram here, any question? Any question for this diagram?
No, teacher.
Don't have. Okay. Okay, let's and if it is inflation, what happens? Okay, problem. What is the economic condition? Can I say we have inflation, high inflation? So the central bank must control inflation. Inflation meaning prices are going up. So must objective is price stability. Price stability here means control the price from going up. Okay. So policy will be, the monetary policy will be what? Contractionary. Contractionary monetary policy will be used during this kind of economic condition. Okay, what is the outcome of contractionary monetary policy? Then you use your model to explain. Okay, let's use the model. Same thing, money market. First, changes happening in the money market. Second, it affects the goods and services market. Third, you want to see the overall change, okay, the trade-off. So you can show the short-run Phillips curve. Okay, money market again, interest rate. R, quantity of money. Okay, let's say this is in billion. Goods and services market, you have price and production. Phillips curve, you have inflation rate. Unemployment rate. Okay, so here we have money demand, money supply. Interest rate, simply, I just simply put a figure, 5%. Quantity of money, 20 billion. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Short run aggregate supply. So you have price index 102. Okay, let's say production 50, unemployment, let's say 3%. Index, I put high index, because in very high inflation. Okay, let's say index is 110. Unemployment 3%. So 110 meaning inflation rate is 10%. From the base year is 10% inflation. Unemployment 3%. Okay, you got this point. You draw short run Phillips curve. Okay, because of very high inflation, the government, central bank wants to bring the inflation down, control it, bring it down. So to bring down the inflation, the policy will be contractionary, reduce the money supply. So what happened? Money supply reduced. First outcome, interest rate goes up. Okay, let's say to 6%. Quantity of money dropped to, let's say, 10 million. Okay, now this one, very important is the interest rate. Changes in the interest rate affects the goods and services market. High interest rate means less borrowing, less investment. So aggregate demand shifting downward. So what happened in the aggregate demand, goods and services market? Price drop. So that is the aim. Okay, let's say 105. Production drop 40. When low production means unemployment increase. Okay, let's say to 5%. Low production, higher unemployment. So now is 5% inflation. 5% inflation and 5% unemployment. So lower inflation, but unfortunately, because of less production, unemployment will be going up. So this is monetary policy for controlling inflation. Earlier on, I show you monetary policy for creating growth and employment. So which policy to be used depending on what is the economic condition. Are you clear? Any question here?
Teacher, did we have to integrate in the diagram?
Must draw the diagram, show the explain step by step. This diagram, you must write, the illustration must provide. Okay. Detailed explanation of the diagram must be given. Correct? Don't just draw a diagram. You must draw the diagram and explain the diagram. We are explaining the policy. What is the policy intention? Okay. But these figures is not actual figures. These are, I just simply give. So if you don't want to use figures, okay. But you want to use figures, you just put there for simplicity reason. Okay, this you put a qualification note. For simplicity, okay, you can say for simplicity reason, numerical values are used. You are using the figures to help you to explain. Okay, numerical values are used. That's all. These are not actual figures. Unless you have the actual data, then you can put it. Okay. It's for explaining purpose. Just put figures. Are you clear? If you do not want to use numerical values, then you just put here what? R1, R0, M0, M1, P0, P1, okay, Y0, Y1, unemployment, U0, U1, okay, like that. Got it? That one is up to you.
Okay, understand.
Yeah. Okay, that is, now I give you the, is that okay? Eh? Let me now give you the, summarize it, okay, summarize in the form of a diagram, okay. So monetary policy, NP is monetary policy divided into two types. What is that? Expansionary monetary policy and contractionary monetary policy. This is used during recession. This is used during inflation. Okay. This one is to increase the money supply, reduce the interest rate, increase the aggregate demand, to increase the production, to reduce the unemployment. Of course, price will go up. Okay, this is a flow that I guess summarize it. Here is to reduce the money supply, which increase the R, which will reduce the aggregate demand because investment drop. Okay, three changes here. Production will fall, unemployment goes up, price will fall. All this, you can use the diagram to show. So this is a summary. And this policy is implemented by the central bank. What's the central bank of Vietnam? In Vietnam, what is your central bank called? In Malaysia, they call it Bank Negara. What is the name of your central bank in Vietnam? Anyone? Don't know. You go and check. Yeah, very important to know what is the central bank of Vietnam. Okay. Okay, I'm taking because when you have to select a country, you can choose Vietnam, you can choose Malaysia, you can choose US. It's up to you. Okay, but make sure the country that you choose for your project, you can find the data, real data. Okay, very important. What are the data that you need from this diagram? You can see very important data like Y. What is the Y? These are the data that you must have. Production data, that is the real GDP. Then you must have data on unemployment. Unemployment data. Actual one, you must find the country that you choose, you must have the unemployment rate. Then you must also have the inflation rate data. Any country that you choose, whether it's Vietnam or Malaysia or whatever, make sure you find the data. And this data that you must find is not only 1 year data, it's about 5 years. Okay, for example, you can take 5 years. Of course, 2026 you don't have, you can take up to 25. That means 5 years is 2020. Okay, maybe you can take 2019 to, because 2019 is quite interesting. We have COVID, all that. So there are policy change. Okay, can take from 2019 data to 2025. So the data that you must look for is inflation rate data 2019 to 2025, unemployment data 2019 to 2025, real GDP or GDP data 2019 to 2025. Then you look at the data, put in a table form and see the changes. You relate to the policy. What policy they use, okay, and look at the changes to the data, whether the policy works. If the policy used is expansionary, the data will show production will be going up, price will be going up, unemployment must be going down. Does the data show this or not? If the data shows this, that means the policy is working, effective. If inflation and the government central bank use this policy contractionary, the data will show production level going down, correct? Unemployment going up, price level going down. This one, real world example, real data. Also, you must have to support your evidence. The data are your evidence to support your answer, to match with the outcome of the policy. In theory, the policy, these are the outcome in theory. These are all the outcome in theory. Monetary policy outcome in theory. In reality, must have the data to show. That's why you have to given you 21 days to do so that you can find all the necessary data. So importantly, the data is real GDP, unemployment, inflation rate, or you can even CPI, Consumer Price Index, all that also can be used. Okay. Okay, well, I'll give you about 15 minutes break. We take a short break. Okay, before that, is there any question? Any question? Any question? No question. Take 15 minutes break. The time now is 9:10. So 15 minutes is how much? You come back at 9:25. Okay. We continue at 9:25. Okay, take a short break. Maybe some of you have not taken breakfast. Go and have your breakfast. Okay. Okay. Response, please. One of you, please respond. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, take 15 minutes break. cái thằng đó là thằng đúng không, chứ là con thấy cái thằng mà cái không thằng đó không thằng đó là con vui vui gì đó, cũng nó bị mất mẹ mắt, nó là cái thằng hát thằng Okay, shall we continue? Are you all back? Please reply, response. Must use your microphone, not talk to me. One of you, answer, reply. Can you hear me or not?
Oh, yes.
Okay, the screen still on the same screen, right? Importance.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Okay, next thing you have to do is you have to choose a country. In my example here, I'm taking Malaysia. You can take any country you want. Huh? So you have to, in your project, provide some description of the country's economy. Okay, Malaysia, for example, is an upper middle income country. Upper middle income meaning the GDP per capita will be how much? Roughly, developed country GDP per capita is about 30,000-40,000 US dollar. Okay. For Malaysia will be about 15,000 GDP per capita of a upper middle income country. It's about, this on US dollar, 15,000. You know what's GDP per capita, right? GDP per capita meaning one person in the country in a year earns how much. Okay, that is how they get GDP per capita. They take the GDP divided by the population. Each person will get 15,000 in Malaysia. Singapore will be about 60,000 US dollar. Singapore is not upper middle income. They are called the high income country. Okay. So describe the economy of the country they are choosing. I'm choosing Malaysia. If you're choosing Vietnam, Vietnam will be most likely, what is Vietnam GDP per capita? Anyone? Anyone? What is Vietnam GDP per capita? How much? About 6,000. Okay, but the PPP one is 16,000. It's roughly about 5,000 US dollar. Yes, so it's not a upper middle income. Most likely is between the middle income country. Okay, and this country nation economy is strongly depending on external sector export. The GDP is comprising of 4 important components, right? So what are the components? Consumption. This is investment, government spending, net export. So this net export is called the external contribution of the external sector. Very important. How much is the dependent of the Malaysian economy on net export? So different country will have different depend. Some country maybe depend very highly on investment or consumption. Okay, most country, this is the largest component. But net export, very important. So a lot of countries very open economy. So when you talk about external economies, you relate that to open economy. Open economy is how open is the economy? How open is the economy? So you must provide the detail. So how to find how open is the economy? What you must do? Must find out what is the contribution of this over the total GDP times 100. You find the percentage. If it is very high percentage, that means very open. Okay, let's say you get 40%. That means 40% of the GDP depends on the net export. That means it's a very open economy. So anything happen to other country, this particular economy will be badly affected because they are very dependent on the external sector, other countries' economy. So that's why sometimes certain country not doing well, like Vietnam, also very open economy. You can find out. If you're writing Vietnam, you must find out. All this detail can be found. No problem. Okay. So briefly describe. This part here is to describe the economy of your choice. So in your description, you can talk about, you can write a bit on the GDP, okay, the component, okay, how important is the external sector, provide the description and the data, evidence to support what you are saying. Are you clear?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure all this kind of detail you must provide. Okay. Okay. Objectives. Okay, I already talked about the objective of the monetary policy. Okay, what are the objectives? Analyze the factors. First of all, what are the factors that contributes affecting the economy? So, for example, like you talk about, if Malaysia is a very open economy, external sector is very important. So, external sector is affected by what happened in other country. Okay. So, for example, like how the external sector is affected, this one will affect the NX, which will affect the performance of the GDP. Yeah. Example, you can give example. Okay, you can look at the data to support your example. For example, during 2019 to 2020, we have COVID, correct? COVID pandemic. Okay, during this time, you find the external sector is one of the sector which is badly affected. Correct or not? Okay, for example, like the tourism sector, our export because of supply chain problem. Okay, all this has affected the net export. So you can find the net export dropping, the GDP falling. So when the GDP, net export all, so what will happen is there will be a increase in unemployment. And then reduction in the GDP. Okay, so during this period of time, when GDP is dropping, unemployment going up, what do you think the central bank of the country has done during this period? Most likely they will implement expansionary monetary policy. So what are the evidence? Okay, go and look at for the evidence. So when we talk about monetary policy, okay, very important is monetary policy, you must relate to the monetary policy tools. What are the tools of monetary policy? Anyone? What's the tool of the monetary policy?
Teacher, can you repeat, please?
Which one? Okay, so for example, I take Malaysia because I'm focusing on Malaysia. Malaysia dependent on the external sector very highly because it's quite an open economy. During this time frame, 2019, I just take a particular time period, 2019 to 2020, we have this problem called COVID, correct? All countries are affected by this pandemic, inclusive of Vietnam, Malaysia, and so on. One very important thing that has affected the economy is because of the external sector. External sector is the export, net export, the trade balance, the trade account is affected by the COVID. That means there is less export and so on, correct? So that has caused fall in the GDP, higher unemployment, people are losing their job, production is dropping. So the central bank during that time definitely will be implementing expansionary monetary policy. So how do you know this policy, expansionary monetary policy has been implemented? You look at the tools. What are the monetary policy tools? Anyone? What are the three very important tools that you study? There are three very important. One, what are the tools? You remember what are the tools?
Open market operations.
Okay, open market. Very good. What is this open market operation? The central bank will buy or sell government securities in the market, open market. In the open market, meaning anyone can buy. If they're selling, anyone can buy, or they go to the open market and buy from who has the government securities. Open market operation, that is buying, selling of government securities. Government. Okay, that is one tool. Okay, then you must find out whether the government did this or not. The country that you have chosen, did the government do this? Okay. What's the second tool?
The second is the discount rate.
Discount rate. Okay, discount rate is the borrowing rate. Okay, how many percent interest rate the central bank charges the commercial bank if they want to borrow from the central bank? Okay, so is there any changes to the discount rate? Okay, the third tool will be reserve requirement ratio. How many percent of the deposit must be kept as reserve by all the commercial bank? So these three tools can do changes to the money supply. So if during this period of time, 2019, 2020, where we have people losing their job and so on, so most likely it's an expansionary. Expansionary policy here means the central bank will, so during this COVID-19, we will find GDP all dropping and so on, right? Okay. So let's, this one okay? I want to erase this. Is this okay? Clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay, so we have during example, I take example during 2019 to 2020. So most likely you'll find expansionary monetary policy has been used. So what the central bank may have done is they may have reduced in the open market, they will buy. Okay, buy government securities. Okay, why they buy government securities? When they buy the securities, people who are holding the government securities, they sell to the central bank, they get the money cash, liquid. That liquid becomes deposit. Okay, in the commercial bank. Deposit in the commercial bank is the money supply. You know what's money supply, right? Money supply, main component of money supply is what? what is the two big component of money supply? One is currency, but two is the deposits. Okay. So when the central bank buy government securities from the public or from the people will now get the cash, and the cash will goes into the bank, and the deposit will be going up. So money supply increase. Okay. Number two, discount rate. The discount rate, what the central bank will do is reduce it. So more commercial bank will borrow money to encourage more commercial bank to borrow money from the central bank. Then the commercial bank will have more liquidity, and they can provide more loan to the people who wants to borrow. When they give more loan, there will be more credit created. When there is more credit created, there will be more deposits in the central commercial bank. That also will increase the money supply. Number three is the reserve requirement. This is reserve requirement. How many percent of the deposit must be kept as a reserve, cannot be given out as loan. Reserve requirement also will be reduced. So that the commercial bank need to keep smaller reserve. Smaller reserve, that means they will have excess reserve, a lot of excess reserve to give out as loan. More loan must be given out during recession, okay, to create more spending, to create more production, and to create more job. So this one, buying government securities, reducing the discount rate, this one will, all these three tools used like that will increase the money supply. Okay, which will reduce the interest rate, increase the investment, increase the production, and lower the unemployment. That is the aim. Again, you must look at exactly what the monetary policy tools used by your country, the country that you have chosen. Do you understand or not? If you choose Vietnam, you find out what the Vietnamese central bank, your central bank in Vietnam has done during this period of time. Different time period, different kind of policy they will be using because the economic condition keep on changing. So you provide the details. Okay, what they have done, how many percent. Another thing is also, another tool they use is overnight, the interbank borrowing rate. Okay, interbank borrowing rate. This one, in America, your textbook, they call it federal fund rate. In Malaysia, they call it OPR, overnight. In Malaysia, they call it overnight policy rate. OP, overnight policy rate. It's not OPR. In Malaysia, they call it OPR. In America, they call it federal fund rate. In Vietnam, they may use different term. This one, borrowing between bank. One bank borrow from another bank. This is also controlled by the central bank. The central bank will reduce the OPR. That means the borrowing, interbank borrowing becomes cheaper. It will be more borrowing. More borrowing means increase in money supply. Okay. Understand? Always remember, if there is more borrowing in the economy, money supply will increase. Because the deposit in the bank will continue to expand. So this is how the policy are used. So you look at the different time frame. But when the economy is okay, stable, maybe you look at the period like 2023 to 24 or 25 or like that. The policy here different because economy already stabilized. During that period, you will find changes again happening to reserve requirement, etc. See what is the announcement of the policy done by your central bank and provide the detail in your report. Okay. The effectiveness of the policy is this one. This one, how much this one change. Okay. If the production changes very little or unemployment drop very little, then means the policy is not so effective. Very important to find out the effectiveness of the policy by looking at the actual data like that. Okay, let's say if the unemployment rate was 6%, after a policy implemented, it drops to 3%, then it's quite effective. Okay, production economy start growing at 3%, 4%, then it's very effective. You'll find most country, just after 2020, the economy GDP growth was very high. 2021, the economy growth can be very abnormal, maybe 8%, 9%, or even more than 10%, double digit. This is not a normal rate, because this is suddenly there will be a lot of borrowing because of this. Then it becomes more normalized. Normalized, your growth will be around, this I'm talking about Malaysia, is about 4%. This is normal growth. I think Vietnam, your growth rate is much higher. Okay, Vietnam is a developing country, will have much greater growth rate. So look at all this data to look at the effectiveness of the policy. What policy implemented? These one are the tools. Look at the tools. Why this policy are implemented? You will relate to the event. For example, like in this case, we have like COVID shock. I give an example here. Between 2018 to 2024 trend include the COVID, because COVID happened in 2019, 2020. Okay. So over this time period, a lot of changes that can happen to the economy. That's why the economy cycle goes up and down. This is the production. This is the, this is the time period. Time, the year. This is the Y, real GDP. Take the real GDP, okay, real GDP. So you may find like that. Maybe this part here, 2019 to 2020, you can find going down. But 21, 22, all that we can show us the growth, maybe 22 to 23. Then it goes more stable growth. So these are all the GDP data. You find out how much is the GDP here, how much is the GDP here, what is the GDP here. Okay. This one must get the actual data. This is called the real data or real example. To support, this one is used to support the theory, to support the theory. The theory says expansionary monetary policy will increase production. Then you see whether is it true or not? Is it increasing? Support the theory. And their theory outcomes. So one very important is you must look at the GDP growth rate. So what is GDP growth rate? How do you GDP and GDP growth rate? What's the difference? This one I'm using this diagram here. I'm saying GDP. Can see or not? GDP and GDP growth rate. What is the difference? Here, going up like that means the GDP is going up. That means the growth rate, GDP growth rate is positive. When it goes down like that, GDP growth rate is negative. Goes up, positive, positive, positive. That means GDP growth rate is, you're looking at the GDP over different time period, whether it's increasing or dropping. So when the GDP is going up, that means the GDP growth rate is positive. GDP dropping, you said GDP growth rate is negative. Negative growth is recession. You understand? The GDP is going up. GDP is rising. That means we have positive GDP growth, which is good. Okay, all countries wants to have positive GDP. If GDP falling, then you have negative GDP growth. This one, negative means recession. Positive meaning is recovering or booming. Okay. Economic growing. So different time period, different kind of growth. So look at this one. You must find the actual evidence. Okay. So normally example, I just give you example. Okay, GDP 2019. Okay, let's say it is 100 billion. GDP 2020. This one is annual GDP because I used annual. Most of the GDP they give you in every year, they give you 4 data. Why 4 data? Anyone? Okay. This is the annual GDP growth rate. Annual GDP growth rate. Between what year? 2019 to 20. You take the GDP of 2020, you don't have to calculate all this. I just show you what is the meaning. You can look for the data. All this data is available in the economic report, in the central bank of your country. You can find out. If you're not sure, you ask AI where to look for this data. The AI will tell you. Yeah. You ask exactly, they will give you. But this one will be what? GDP 2020, 120 billion minus 100 billion divided by 100 billion will give you the growth rate of the GDP from 2019 to 20. Annual GDP growth rate, what do you get? 20 over 100 billion, all that cancel, times 100. It's 20%. Okay, that means from 2019 to 2020 is positive 20%. That means it is growing. Okay, but we know 2019 to 2020 is the GDP growth is the GDP fall, maybe from 100 billion to maybe 90 billion. If 90 billion, then the story is different. You have different thing here. So you will have what? Negative growth. So will be what? 90 minus 100 divided by 100 times 100. So what do you get? Negative 10 over 100 times. Economy dropped by 10%. Negative growth of 10%. This one is normally when negative means recession. I just give an example. When you see the data, you must know if you use the GDP growth rate data, negative means not good, recession. But if you look at the GDP data, then you must see if the GDP drop, this one recession. Okay, because the growth is negative. But increasing means it's not recession, it's economy growing or booming. So very important to find one of the data that you must have in your project is the GDP growth rate. Now you understand the term GDP growth rate? Okay, one more thing you must know is most of the data normally given in quarterly GDP. Quarterly GDP. They give you GDP in a quarter. 1 year, how many quarters? Anyone? Let's say 2019. They have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. 1 year got 4 quarters. Okay, so let's say this one is 100. This one drop to 90 billion. And this continue to drop 80 billion. 2 quarters consecutively, if the GDP drop, okay, this is a GDP, quarterly GDP data. is recession. Okay. Okay. Let's say this one is 78 billion. Means throughout the 4 quarters, the GDP continuously dropping. That means the economy is contracting, not good. There is recession. Okay, then you look at 2020, they give you also the 4 quarters data. 1, 2. This is GDP in quarterly data provided in quarter. Okay, maybe this one shows 80 billion. But when you compare the first quarter 2019 and first quarter 2020, first quarter 2020 is still below the performance of 2019. Can also do comparison like that. Okay. Then here maybe becomes 100 billion. When you compare, it's not growing, but when you compare with 2019 second quarter and second quarter of 2020, it's improving. So overall second quarter is going up already. So this is how you can use the data for your evaluating the policy effectiveness. Okay, these are the data requires for you to talk about the effectiveness of the policy. I told you earlier on, effectiveness, very important to look at the actual data. Okay, okay. Let's say third quarter continue to go up to 115 billion. That means 2020 is a good year already. Okay, overall the economy has been improving. So overall the economy is declining. Okay, on a quarterly basis is declining. This one is continuing to rise. So the economy recover already. So this is recovery. Okay, this one is declining economy. So recession. So you have to use the term correctly. Do you understand or not? So look for data. Now you must find out GDP growth or GDP data from, I told you earlier on, from what year to what year? 2019 to 2025 will be enough. Okay. Here I put 2018. If you want to have 2018, nothing wrong. Okay, so make sure you have the data from, if you don't have 2025 data, doesn't matter. So what's the latest you have? Okay, so take about 5 years data. Okay, any question here? Is it clear? So what do you understand from here? You must find the actual data, macroeconomic data. So one of the macroeconomic data, when you are going to talk about the effectiveness of the policy, is the GDP data, because GDP here represents the production. Okay, if the GDP growth is positive, good. The economy is growing. If GDP growth is negative, then the economy is declining. If you cannot find the percentage growth, in percent, you can find in, this is called absolute data, absolute. Okay, sometimes you can find the data given in percentage. Okay, let's say they said you get the GDP growth rate. And they give you 2019. Okay, they said 5%. That means this is from 2018 to 2019, 5%. And 2020, this is 2019 to 2020, negative 4%. That means the economy contracted. So this one showing already we have recession. So you can take data like that. Okay, this one shows 3% positive, economy recover already. Okay, recovered. In 2022, the economy is more stable now. Coming back to the actual kind of growth. Do you understand or not? So you can also look for, this is GDP growth rate. GDP growth rate will be in percent. This is GDP. Right. I already erased. Okay, GDP in the dollar sign or GDP in percentage. Okay. In percentage, we call it GDP growth rate. Okay. The word rate means always in percent. Okay, any questions?
No, teacher.
Clear. So you must make sure you must add this data. Okay. The second data that you must collect and look for is inflation data. Okay, what is inflation? Anyone? What's the meaning of inflation? Inflation you can relate to increase in the overall
Increase the rise of goods and service.
very good. Increase in the prices of goods and services. Okay. Increase in the price of goods and services meaning increase in the cost of living. Increase in cost of living not very good no, because it reduces your purchasing power. So reduction in purchasing power will make you worse off. Worse off is you're not happy. Okay, so very important to control. That's why very important to control inflation. So if you look at during the COVID period time, during COVID, you will find GDP growth all negative. Price may be going up because of supply problem. I think you have to look at the price also. When you see price going up, if you see price is going up, inflation, and you see unemployment is dropping, this is very unusual. Normally, when unemployment unemployment increasing. When you see price going up at the same time, unemployment is also going up. This is unusual. Normally, we find price go up, unemployment drop, but this is what they call as stagflation. So, like now, most country is facing this problem, stagflation, because of the oil price going up. Normally, when oil price goes up, costs. Stagflation is caused by what? One, drop in the short run aggregate supply because of higher costs. Increasing the costs. So during COVID, is there any increase in the costs? Production cost, is it increasing? Why? And you provide evidence. This one during COVID, this one is post-COVID. Post-COVID and after COVID. During COVID, you can find this one. At the same time, drop in the aggregate demand. Okay, drop in aggregate demand, you know, because people are losing job and so on. Okay, so this happened, okay, because of recession. At the same time, cost is going up. That's why you call recession and inflation happening at the same time as known as stagflation. But why is the cost going up during the COVID period time? This one is because of what? Caused by the disruption in the supply chain. You know, supply chains, the supply of material. Okay, disrupted by the COVID because of the lockdown, you know, no movement of, you cannot go here and go there. Production is affected. The material cannot reach the producer. No, supply chain is very important for producer. If disruption in the supply chain, that means the producer cannot get the material for their production. So it becomes very expensive to get the material. So that is the reason why during the COVID period, two things happen. Supply dropping, demand dropping. So you can show, if you want to show in the diagram. Okay, clear? Understand the term stagflation? The coexistence of what? Inflation and unemployment at the same time happening in a country. So that is called stagflation. So in the diagram, if you want to use the diagram, you can show like this. Is that okay? Can I erase this? Can I erase this? Any question on this slide?
No question. You can move to the next one.
Okay. Then during the pandemic, I just take example. So this is what happened during the COVID period. Even now because of the war, same thing, same problem. We can use the goods and services model market. There is price, real GDP, aggregate demand, short-run aggregate supply. Okay. So let's say price, production, unemployment. Okay. So what happened during the pandemic? Business are bad, people are losing confidence, there will be less investment, less consumption, etc. So aggregate demand drop. Okay, this one dropping is because of investment, consumption, all this net export falling. So this reduces the aggregate demand. At the same time, during this period time, we have disruption, supply change. It means producer, that means the firms, producer, producers unable to get the material, unable to acquire materials for production. Okay. And therefore, material costs goes up. This increase overall the costs, which will reduce the short-run aggregate supply. So you show the short-run aggregate supply shifting to the left. So what is the outcome of this? Here, you can see aggregate demand dropping, this one going up, so price is going up. At the same time, production dropped a lot. And unemployment has also increased. So this is example of stagflation, which has happened during the COVID period. Even today, some economy is going to experience stagflation because of the war between Iran and US. So you must know how to use the diagram applied to explain what happened during that period. Okay. So your analysis become very good. Okay, spike during pandemic. So this is pandemic. Recovery after that. After that, we know central bank implements expansionary monetary policy. But your focus will be mostly on monetary, but fiscal policy are also used during this period. Expand this one because to increase the aggregate demand back up here, we need demand policy. Okay, remember demand policy, there are two types, fiscal and monetary. Normally they are used both, mixed. Both will be used. But because this question project focus on monetary, so you can say in this situation, the central bank definitely have to push back the aggregate demand upward. In order to do that, they have to use expansionary monetary. So look for the evidence, what the central bank done to the borrowing rate, what happened to the interest rate. You will find they will have to reduce the interest rate and so on. So expansionary monetary normally will be used during this period for recovery. Okay, so the intervention here will be central bank will be need to implement, because central bank only can make changes to the aggregate demand. They have no power to change the supply, okay, only the demand. So in this kind of situation, what you will see is the central bank will be implementing what? Expansionary monetary policy. we have expansionary monetary policy. So what happens? Interest rate will be lower. Okay, in order to encourage more investment so that the economy can recover. Okay, so the next data you must look for is unemployment data. Also, don't forget inflation data. Okay, data related to inflation to see is there any changes to the cost of living or not. Okay, if the cost of living is going up, that means people will be becoming worse off. They will not be very happy. Okay, so what is the intervention here? At the same time here, what the central bank will do to look at the unemployment data. Okay, so these are the data that you must have. One is the GDP data to look at the economic performance, inflation data for cost of living, unemployment data. Okay, so these are the data that you have to look for the country that you have chosen. Got it? Any question here? What was the unemployment rate for Vietnam during the 2019-2020? Anyone can give me?
The employment rate in Vietnam in 2020,
Yeah, how much?
it was about 2%, 2.26%.
2.26.
26%.
26% or 2.26? Yeah, 26%.
Two.
What year is this? 20?
2020.
22. 22 is already recovered.
No,
Give me
it was about 2020.
2020.
Yes.
How about 2019?
2019.
Yeah.
2019 was about 2.05.
2.0.
5.
2.05. So there's an increase here, correct? But not so significant increase. Okay. How about inflation rate?
Which year?
2019, 2020.
Inflation rate 2019 is about 2.79%.
2.79. 2020?
2020 is about 3.23.
Okay, going up because of the policy implementation. So when you increase the aggregate demand during the COVID period, price will continue to rise. You understand? Okay, it will go back like that. Continue to go up. That's why they see the inflation happen, but lower rate of unemployment. That's what they want to achieve, create more jobs. But unfortunately, there's a trade-off. We study about Phillips curve. To lower the unemployment, price continue to rise because of the spending level start going up. So how the spending gone up? Two ways. One is the fiscal policy. Number two is the monetary policy. But your focus will be talk about the monetary policy used by your government, by the country that you have chosen, the government of the country that you have chosen during that period. Okay. So all this kind of data is very important for you to have in order for you to support your argument and to relate to the theory that you have explained. In the first part, definitely you're going to explain the theoretical framework, the theory, the model, theory like quantity theory of money, Okay, aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, all that you must explain first. Okay, then you come to the real data and you relate those theories to the real data. Okay. So another thing that you can look at is exchange rate. Because all this got connection, the export and import, movement of capital, which has been affected, okay, has an implication on the exchange rate. So exchange rate is what? What is exchange rate? Anyone? I use XR, XR as exchange rate. What is exchange rate? Son, can be the nominal exchange rate or the real exchange rate. So what's the difference? Nominal means what is nominal exchange rate? One country currency traded for another country's currency. For example, like $1 equals to how much? Dong? 20,000. What's the exchange rate between US and Vietnamese dong? Anyone give me the figure? $1, ringgit Malaysia, about 3.9. $1 for dong is how much?
To Vietnam,
Yeah, Vietnam dong. How much?
26,000 Vietnam
Wow.
đồng.
That means the Vietnam dong has become very weak. Last time when I go to Vietnam, it's 20,000. Okay.
Yeah, now it's more high than the
Uh,
past.
yes, that means the Vietnamese dong currency has depreciated. That's the meaning of depreciation. So one also very important data you look at is because money market changes in the monetary policy will also have an impact on the exchange rate because it will have an impact on, the movement of goods and services, trade, and also the capital. So exchange rate will be affected by this also. Okay, so nominal exchange rate, you can look at a nominal meaning you look at one country's currency trade for another. Real exchange rate, very difficult to get the data. You have to convert from the nominal to the real. So you can use the nominal exchange rate data, no problem. Okay. Real is one country goods trade for another. That means if I give you one X, you give me how many Y. Okay. What's the terms of trade? One X for how many Y? If this country produce X, another country produce Y, 2Y. This is called real. 1X for 2Y. 2Y for 1X. You trade. I give you 1X, you give me 2Y. You understand? I give you 2X, you give me 4Y. That is in real term. Okay. So this one difficult to find unless you convert, but this is available. This data is available, so you can use it. So when you talk about exchange rate, we need to know the difference between what is the appreciation and depreciation. What's the difference? Appreciation, the country's currency becomes stronger. That means $1, 20,000, 26,000 dong. This is today. Okay, rate. Maybe 10 years ago. 10 years ago means what? 2016. Okay, $1, 18,000 dong. $18,000. So what happens? 2016, the rate is like that. Today is like this. That means the Vietnamese currency has depreciated, but the US dollar has appreciated. So that is the term appreciation and depreciation. And this currency rate is very important in trading. Okay, very important for when you talk about trade, when you talk about investment, whether a country wants, other people want to invest or not, very important. Okay, clear? So look for exchange rate data and see whether there's any changes to the currency rate. So for Malaysia during the COVID period, the ringgit has depreciated a lot against the US dollar. Okay. Now slowly improving. Ringgit was traded at, last year, $1, 4 ringgit. Now slowly the ringgit is becoming stronger and stronger, appreciating against the US dollar. Okay. Any question here? So these are data. What I'm telling you is all the macroeconomic variables data that you have to have in order for you to explain. Okay, so what are the data again? You must have GDP growth rate data, CPI or inflation rate data, unemployment rate data, exchange rate data. Okay, these are all the data. You look over the time period, what happens, and then you relate to the policy. How? During expansionary, what happens to all this? During contractionary, what happens? So when the central bank make changes to the tools, these are the variables that will be affected by the monetary policy. Okay, clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay. Okay, this part here. So I'm going to give you a longer lunch break. We will stop here for morning. Okay, later on, when you come back at what time? Second part is what time? That is what's your time now? 10:30, right?
It's 10:23.
10:23.
Yeah.
Okay, 10:23. My time here is 11:23. The next
But
class.
we will end in about 30 minutes left.
No, doesn't matter. You take a slightly long break, lunch. Okay.
Okay.
I will see you back at what time? This is 12 o'clock, right? We'll come back at 12. Yeah. Okay, come back at 12 o'clock. Your time, not 12. Okay, I'll see you.
So we come back 3 o'clock.
I will tell you what time we finish. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll see you for your second. So for the second class, you have to go and log in again. I will give you the link for the second part. Okay, revision for second part, afternoon session. Okay. Now you can leave the class.